Hi guys, thank you for joining my YouTube channel. I'm Arvin Gonzalez, and in this very special episode, someone who I have been following for like 7 years since he was on Fangraphs is here with us, and I think alongside John Morosi and also Enrique Rojas, who is another episode that wasn't live, it was recorded. It's gonna be released soon. I think this is the top three of uh, people that have accepted my invitation that I'm really proud of having in my channel. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, first question is, how did you start in the industry? Or as before that, like, how was your first connection with baseball?
Well, I'm an immigrant to America. I was born in Jamaica, and I lived in Jamaica, and then I lived in Germany some. And when I came to America, it was just a way to connect with people in America. And so we would play stickball, and I would hold the bat like Julio Franco, and Gary Sheffield. I would try to pitch like different guys. I remember trying to pitch like El Duque. So there was a lot of guys that we would play. We'd play stickball or play wiffle ball, and then we would collect cards. And
Oh,
I realized early on that I had a sort of eye for what kind of player would be good and what kind of player I should trade for their rookie cards. And so I remember trading for a lot of Barry Bonds rookie cards because I said this guy's going to be pretty good, I think. But I used to really like if a player had a very high on base percentage and didn't strike out very much. And those are things I still like, but that was the first thing that I said, ooh, Chipper Jones, he doesn't strike out that much, and he has a very high on base percentage, and he's going to be good too. So that's the sort of start that I had, and then I used to edit children's books in New York, and I just spent all of my free time reading Fangraphs, reading Dave Cameron on Fangraphs, reading Rob Nyer in ESPN, and just reading everything I could. And I started writing on the side, and that eventually led to where I am today.
wow, pretty interesting. Like, I know about like the previous countries you have lived, but I didn't know you were born in Jamaica. That's pretty good to know. Um, what was like the first job opportunity that you had?
I wrote for a site called Fantasy Lounge Sports, and we did fantasy stuff for baseball, football, basketball. I think we even did some hockey. They helped me a lot. They gave me a place to write, and from there I won an award with the Fantasy Sports Writing Association, and that put me on the radar for Sports Blog Nation. So I wrote for Amazing Avenue.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
Yeah, I wrote for Amazing Avenue about the Mets. And then I got a job at Fangraphs, and that was my real breakthrough. It was my first job at Fangraphs.
Yeah, I remember. That's from there that I remembered you. I didn't have any idea that you were uh, a writer for Amazing Avenue. Good to know. Also, I remember that you used to focus a lot on stats since the very beginning of Fangraphs, which makes sense because of uh, the essence of the site. But how was like the turning point for you? Like you could say that makes you realize that what you knew about stats at that point was so small.
Um, I think one way in was my father has bet on baseball. My stepfather has bet on baseball his whole life, and so he had a numbers sort of approach to baseball, and that started me out there. And then when I was on Fangraphs reading, I realized it could help me win my fantasy leagues, and so I was using Fangraphs a lot. And then I don't know. When I realized that I might have something to add was just I was looking at pictures, and the first thing I ever did that was maybe a little different from what other people did was I looked at their separate pitches and their results on their separate pitches, and I said something like, "Well, he has a very good slider because he has a high whiff rate on his slider." And I remember looking at Carlos Carrasco and saying, he has a very good slider. He has a very good changeup. I think he's going to have a better year next year. So I was able to, using just that method of just looking for good pitches separate from overall, I was able to find breakouts like Jake Arrieta, Carlos Carrasco, Corey Kluber. And when I found those guys before they became great, I got a reputation for being able to find good pitching, and so that sent me on just the study of pitching. And I also grew up in Atlanta, so I saw Greg
Whoa.
Maddux,
Yeah.
Tom Glavine and John Smoltz. So, and what I think is really interesting about those three pitchers, they're very different. Change up lefty, power righty, Smoltz power righty, and then you've got the command sinker slider righty in Maddux. I think just seeing how those very different ways of being excellent helped me realize later when I was studying there are lots of different ways for pitchers to break out, and so you have to kind of try to account for all the different ways somebody can be good.
Which is perfect, the last part you said, because that takes us to the next step. Since last season, at least for me, I don't remember if I have read it before in another article, but it was your article in The Athletic about the stuff plus that opened my eyes about the way we evaluate pictures and the way we just watch it, like while enjoying a baseball game, just as a casual fan. And I think that this and before that, baseball saving with all the breakdown to follow the pictures in live score. I think that those two things has been like more easy to like not only evaluate pictures but also like to understand, because you can being able to like understand what you watching, or maybe you don't have the tools of the word to describe. But now with those resources, I think it's pretty more simple, at least for me. And I would like to add some context because I was making some research and I found the article of 2009. I'm gonna add it here.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
there
the
we are.
first time I saw it.
Jeremy Greenhouse, writing for baseballanalyst.com about stuff bluffs. Let's
Yep.
see. Let's say it was just the baby steps for stuff bluffs, right?
Yeah, that's the first time I saw someone put together stuff that I was thinking about. Because before something like this, you could say, "Oh, this guy's slider has more drop," or "Oh, this guy throws a really hard curveball," or "Oh, this guy's four seamer has a lot of ride." And so you could say, "Oh, I think that's going to be good." But when you have a number like stuff, you're putting it all together and trying to figure out how good their entire arsenal is. And I thought this was a really good attempt. What's changed since then is that we now have Hawkeye, so we now have more data. We have more ability to say things about seam shifted wake. I have that's a bit in my stuff number that they couldn't put in their old stuff number. And there's different things that we have now that we can directly measure spin rate. When he wrote that, we had to just infer spin rate. We couldn't see it with the machines. So this exactly set me. This piece here set me on 13 years of research on stuff. And he works for the Cubs now. And I
Oh,
would say that most teams are, at least more than half. I would say maybe 2/3 of baseball has their own internal stuff number. Because if you see something like this in 2009, the best teams start working on it right away.
sure.
And so I'd say most teams have their own stuff number by now. But I also have talked to teams that said that my public number is pretty good. It's pretty close to what they have.
Would you say that that article was similar in terms of impact, like Boris McCracken article on Babbitt?
I mean, to me, yes. It turned me around, and it was. I think there's other researchers that might agree with me. I know Harry Pavlidis. I don't know if he's listed on that
Well,
as
let
a
me see if
writer.
I can just zoom in.
No, um, Dave Allen was doing a lot of good work back then. Harry Pavlidis writes for and works for Baseball Prospectus,
Oh,
and he wasn't on there, but Harry has done excellent work in this regard, and I'm sure he knows about this piece. I think 100% he knows about this piece. So I would say that most of the people who have worked on a stuff number either know about this piece or started working on it when they saw this.
so how, and let's now go to the concept of Stuff Plus. For a casual baseball fan, how would you explain what Stuff Plus stands for?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to describe it is just we try to evaluate the pitch only on its physical properties. So just on the movement, the spin, the velocity. Those are maybe the release points on it, but that's all. These are the most important features. But as you can see, the reason it says difference, and this is where we get past the casual a little bit, but think about a pitcher. He has a fastball. He sets the mode with the fastball. This is what you're going to get half the time. You're going to get this movement half the time, this velocity half the time. So what we did in Stuff Plus was define everything off of that fastball. So velocity difference is you got the fastball velocity, and then you've got the slider velocity. That's a velocity difference. Vertical movement difference. How much does your slider drop from your fastball? How much does it separate horizontally? So you basically establish with the fastball, and then you define all the pitches that move off of that fastball in order to sort of it's to kind of approximate what it's like to stand in against that player. When you're trying to hit that pitcher, you try to set to the fastball, and then you have to adjust to the other pitches. And so the idea is that this metric says how nasty is the stuff. And I think it's important because if you think about Greg Maddux, for example, people say, "Oh, he didn't throw hard. He was all about command." The problem is that he had great stuff. And if you watch them back in the day, his sinker had so much movement, and his breaking balls had so much movement. He had great command, but it was the movement that was so important too. And so I think early on we said 98 miles an hour, this guy's great. But then we had lots of pitchers. I remember Henry Rodriguez, used to throw 100 miles an hour. He never really made it as a closer. There were other pitchers. Nathan Eovaldi throws very hard, but it's straight as a fastball. And so, part of what Stuff Plus realizes is how much it moves is, I don't know if it's equally as important, but almost as important as how fast it goes. So, yes, you want to throw 99, but it'd be better if you could throw 99 with ride or with a lot of sink. And so that's what this number tries to capture.
Yeah, and that's something I used to like. I wasn't using Stuff Plus when I wrote an article for my personal blog about how the Yankees found value on Clay Holmes, but it was the movement of the sinker and how like Matt Blake was able to like put it together in a way that his release point is way better than last season, and
Mm.
he's using it way more. And that is obvious even for the casual fan. And I think it's important that you mentioned like the difference between throwing hard but also having movement. And you may notice that when you see Corbin Burns, Jacob DeGrom, even Aroldis Chapman that you might think that doesn't have any movement, he has.
Yeah, and in fact, I think that's important for scouts and for the casual fan. Some of these things are hard to see. I think that when a fastball has great ride, a lot of times it looks straight. And
Yeah,
so the difference between a fastball with great ride and Nathan Eovaldi's fastball is very hard to see with your eyes. In fact, the easiest way to see it is in the way the hitters react. Do they swing under their fastball? Do they pop it up? Does it sort of surprise them, or do they square it up? And you know, Evaldi, as hard as he threw, his fastball always got hit really hard. But there are other guys, you know, they're usually on the Tampa Bay Rays, or there's the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Rays, the Astros. They're way out in front of this type of research. Some of those guys will throw 91, 92, but you know, like JP Fireisen is a guy who does not throw that hard. Andrew Kittredge, you know, doesn't throw that hard. These are guys that the Rays picked up, and they've got really good ride on their fastball, which means the fastball appears at the plate. It appears higher than the batter expects.
yeah, and that's something that you may notice in the leaderboards that you share sometime. I remember uh, looking at JP Fireisen there, like not top five, but in the middle. I would say like 15. I'm talking about the ranking one leaderboard that you shared last year in the middle of the season.
Right now, the number one Stuff Plus guy is Felix Bautista for the Orioles. And I guess, you know, to be honest, you could probably just see that. You wouldn't have to have a number. You know, he throws really hard. He has a nasty splitter. You know, that one makes sense. But there are other players around him that might be surprising. Paul Sewald, for example,
Ooh, Mariners.
of the Mariners, he's second. And he throws, I think, 93 or something, 94. He just
I
has a lot of
remember. I was at the game covering last week Nationals against the Mariners, and he closed the first one. I think, yeah, closed it when Soto hit a solo homer. Yeah,
Yeah, and he just has a weird release point. He releases it out the side here, but he has a way of making it not look like he's releasing it out here. So it's deception. It's surprising. He releases it out here, but his hand is like this. So if you think of normal guys that release it out here, their hand is like this, and so the movement goes like that. But he releases it more like this, and so the ball kind of jumps on people, and they see that hand out there, and they say, "Okay, side armor, it's going to go down," but he doesn't. It jumps up on them. So you know, he's a really interesting player with interesting movement. And then you know, some other ones, Emmanuel Clase, yeah, he's top five. He throws really hard, but one thing, and I don't know if people saw this at the All-Star game, it's not really hard like with ride, and it's not really hard sink. It's a cutter. And so he throws a 99-mile-an-hour pitch that goes like this at the end. And if they had an actual, I think at the All-Star game, they had a cam on the umpire, so you could see what it was like to stand in against him. And it looked impossible to me. I mean, 99 miles an hour, and as a lefty, it's going to come in on your hands.
yeah.
I think he is definitely one of the nastiest pitchers that I can think of. But also on this list is Stephen Okert on the Marlins, who, you know, doesn't throw all that hard. So throwing hard does make it easier to be in the top of this list, but having great movement can get you there too.
So we saw about your explanation about velocity difference, movement difference, both vertical and horizontal, spin rate, which is basically the movement, release point, and you also show us about the. Oh no, you didn't about extension and spin
Yeah,
angle.
so extension is important because it's how close the batter releases it to the plate. So if I release it here and it's 98, that's different than if I release it here and it's 98.
Yeah.
It's going to be quicker. You have to make a decision quicker. It's going to seem quicker, but it also has some effects on the movement. So the Tampa Bay Rays are very much into extension. Their players routinely have the most extension in the big leagues. And so I think they figured something out about how you can coach players with great extension, what you can do with them after you get them, and then how good they are compared to other players. So extension is important. And then one thing that we've added since that map came out is it's called axis differential. It's about seam shifted wake. So it's about we thought that all movement came from spin. And so our first models of movement and pitching were all like, if the ball spins like this, it's going to move like this. If the ball spins like this, it's going to move like this. If the ball spins sideways, it's going to move like this, right? So we basically thought all movement came from spin. But there was a researcher named Barton Smith who figured out that if I move the ball, if I pitch, like if I have the same spin, this spin, but the seams are different, I can get different movement based on the seams.
Yeah.
So that's what he called it. Seam shifted wake is the seams actually can change the movement of the ball. And once we put that in the model, we discovered that we've been underrating changeups and sinkers. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about how baseball has been working over the last few years. There's been teams that have been all fastball slider. They want everybody to have a ride and everybody have a big breaking ball off of that. And I think partially is because they couldn't figure out what good changeups look like and what good sinkers look like. But you looked at when the Dodgers got Clay Holmes, that was an important thing. I mean, when the Yankees got Clay Holmes, that was an important thing because the Yankees used to be fastball slider. Luis Severino, Michael Pineda, so many guys, fastball slider, go like this, go like this. That's it. That's what we want. When they got Clay Holmes, that was like, no. We know what a good sinker looks like too now. And that was part of, you can see how baseball learns, about these things and starts acting on what they've learned.
Something that caught my attention when making research, not only before this interview, but as the athletic subscriber, like the difference between evaluating based on a stuff plus and then looking the red and blue numbers on baseball savings. And I remember a perfect example you brought was Kenta Maeda. And especially, I think it was more about his slider, the difference. And I remember that you were telling about that sometimes, I don't remember that often, but ball blue is not that bad.
Yeah, I think generally, I think so. The red and blue numbers on Savant are supposed to tell you if they have great movement. So that's actually a really good place to look. If anybody wants to do their own research, you can go to the player page on Savant. Go to the movement section, and it has movement above average. And so a lot of times, I would say most of the time, we link up. Stuff. Somebody with great stuff plus. You go look at Clay Holmes's page. I'm sure it's all red because he has great movement above average. And so most of the time that's the same. But we're not always the same. And partially it's because of velocity. For example, if you throw an 87 mile an hour breaking ball, it almost doesn't matter how it moves. You throw such a hard breaking ball.
Yeah, because of the difference.
Yeah, so you can throw a little cutter if it's 89, 90, 91. Think about Jake DeGrom. He throws like a 93 mile an hour slider. It has average movement, but it's a 93 mile an hour slider. So, that's part of it. There's also something called a gyro slider, which is a slider that doesn't move. It just goes as exactly what what you'd expect. But if you throw it hard, if you can command it well, it can be a really strong pitch. So generally, if you go to Savant, you see red on the page. Those are high stuff players, and that can be a good way to scout for players yourself. Look at a young guy that's just come up. Look at a Glenn Otto or look at a Spencer Strider. Compare Glenn Otto's Savant page to Spencer Strider's page. I'm sure you see a lot of red on one and more blue on the other.
Finally, off topics, I have three questions I have to ask you. First one is, how are you feeling about all this Soto drama?
It's a difficult position they're in. I think it's interesting to think about if you're a new owner of the team because they're selling the team. If you're a new owner of the team, would you rather have Soto, or would you rather have a bunch of new kids that could lead to the next World Series win? And sometimes they think very much in numbers and math and how much money they'd make. Some ways, winning the World Series might be worth more than having Juan Soto. On the other hand, I think Juan Soto is going to the Hall of Fame. I think he's only 23, but he looks like a Hall of Famer. He looks like Miguel Cabrera with, maybe even better plate discipline, And so you almost rather have that on your team. You'd rather have a guy who's going to go. There's nobody in the Hall of Fame with the Washington Nationals hat on. So if you were going to buy the team, wouldn't you rather have a guy that will go to the Hall of Fame with your hat on? So that's just one little part of it. The other part of it is if you're trading for Juan Soto, sometimes you have to give up so much that you've traded away the future of your team. And now the Dodgers have done it with Mookie Betts. The Cardinals have done it before with Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, but that was a little different because the contract was very expensive. But with Goldschmidt, they put a lot of players together to go get Paul Goldschmidt. The Dodgers put a lot of players together to go get Mookie Betts. They have done a good job of creating more players after it. I don't think the Nationals' player development is very good. So I don't know that they're going to create a lot of younger players after. So that's why they need to trade for them. But if you're the Giants or the Mets or the Dodgers again or the Yankees, you have to be sure that you can trade away these players for Juan Soto and also find a lot of new ones. Scout, develop, find new guys to replace the guys you traded away. For example, with the Padres, they have some very good prospects. Robert Hassel, CJ Abrams, Luis Campuzano. Those are very good prospects. If they traded them to the Nationals, they'd be giving them a catcher, a shortstop, and a center fielder all in one. That's a really great trade package. If you're the Padres, you better win in the next 2 years because you don't have any young guys coming up. There's nobody left in the coffers if you do that.
Position, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very big decision for everybody. I think it's very interesting to follow. I think there's a chance that Juan Soto stays in Washington because it's so complicated and it's going to be so difficult to make it work.
I think this is like unprecedented because of the stage which Soto is in his contract status. Because
his age right?
You may say the same thing with like LeBron James, but he was free agent.
Right.
This is something never seen before. And I'm so curious to know how this ends up.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes it happens in baseball, though. I'm thinking of Juan Moncada. For Chris Sale, it was Juan Moncada and Michael Kopech for Chris Sale.
But it wasn't like that boss before.
Yeah.
It was something in certain way, like unexpected, like
Yeah, that's
suddenly
true.
happening and it
What
broke.
about Miguel Cabrera to the Tigers?
Oh, yeah, I think that's a
Close.
pretty good comparison. Yeah,
But that didn't work out very well for the Marlins.
no, of course.
None of the players, and in fact, I think that's meaningful because if you're the Nationals, you say, well, that didn't work out very well for the Marlins. Maybe we should keep him.
Yeah, I hope so. Like DC resident. uh, Another thing is like this sure should be like worthy for another episode. But what did you find out about MLB releasing data about bat speed?
I'm very excited for it. It's part of the new Hawkeye system, which is an optical tracking system instead of radar. And it's something we knew was going to come once we started putting high speed cameras all around the ballpark. Now you can sell because the radar couldn't tell the difference between my hand and the bat. It all looks like one. If you think about it in radar terms, it looks
Yeah.
like one big long stick, you know. But it's something that uses eyes can tell the difference between the bat and my hands, and so then you can start to say, oh, his forearm moved with this angle through here, this speed. His hand was in this and then like this or like this. His all the different muscle groups. His legs were doing this. And the best teams have been doing this for a little bit on their own without Hawkeye. And so, for example, the Minnesota Twins picked up a couple players in Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober. They're these players that move in strange ways. Their bodies move in strange ways, and they're pitchers, and it makes it hard for players to be able to hit them. And so that's because the Minnesota Twins were an early investor in limb tracking and sort of being able to say something about your body's limbs. Now we're going to start to see everyone get some data about that. So maybe some teams will catch up. But still, the teams that have been doing this for a while have the advantage. They know a little bit more about what they're looking for. They have a data advantage. They've been working on this. But now also we get to see it. So we get to see bat speed. We get to see arm speed. These will all be fun things that come out of this. Only one word of caution. I did talk to some team analysts about that data that's coming through. Some stuff like bat speed should be pretty good. But when they start talking about where on the bat the player is hitting the ball, that's millimeters. Very small differences, and you kind of want to have a large sample. You want to have good, because it'll misread. The reading will be off. The team said that we have to do a lot of work to clean that up and make it useful. I think the earliest thing we'll see is bat speed, and it is meaningful because exit velocity, which is very important for hitters, because it's how hard you hit the ball. Exit velocity is 5 parts bat speed and 1 part pitch speed. So if we know bat speed, we're going to know so much about exit velocity. And it's the most important thing. And bat speed is probably, other than eye and like decisions, bat speed is probably the most important thing a hitter can have. So, this is a new thing. I'm very excited about it. And I hope maybe next year we'll have some leaderboards, or maybe the year after that. But I'm excited for that data to start coming through to us.
After I forget, Jorge Castillo, I was talking with him like from USA Today. He used to cover MLB.
Yeah.
And when I told him that I gonna make an interview with you, you have to say hi to him.
Yes.
And he remembers some anecdote with you, like you were the only one who Sad Greinke stopped to talk about baseball.
Oh yeah.
How does that feel? How does that feel? How did that feel?
Yeah, Greinke. He's only interested in learning more about baseball, and so he doesn't really like a lot of the questions after the game of how did you feel or how did that
Yeah,
feel, or he doesn't care about that stuff. He only wants to get better at baseball or understand baseball better, and so we've connected pretty well because we just talk about understanding baseball better. And and Joey Votto is similar too, where you have these great players that have just are just obsessed with getting better. I hear Shohei Ohtani is the same way. Just want to know everything
not
about.
surprised.
Yeah, want to know everything. And what's interesting about Shohei Ohtani is, he has to know everything about both sides. He better. I think this is actually very important that he wants to know everything about both sides. It's probably a big part, an underreported part of why he's so great. It's not just he is an athlete. He's physical, he's fast, he's strong, he's big, but he cares a lot about learning. And that's what we had in common with Greinke. And it's great to hear. I hadn't seen Jorge in a while, and it's great to think of him. I always enjoyed his company.
I'm gonna talk about that. Last IPA or lagers?
I'm an IPA guy. Lagers are too sweet for me. I like a little bit
I'm
of
quite the
bitterness, a
opposite.
little bit of...
I'm quite the opposite. I'm working in Trader Joe's as the beer section leader, and I have studied a lot about beers in the last 6 months, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting because I don't know. It's such a wide variety, and like every brewery have its own way to do the beer and its own story. So it's been pretty
You're coming
fascinating.
around to IPAs a little bit, or?
I have tried some locals from
Uh-huh.
the DMV, but like let's see. Oh, do you know like Seven Locks?
Uh-uh.
Oh, that's a DC brewery.
Uh-huh.
I've tried like Billy the Goat, which is pretty good, and Snake Eating.
Mm.
Yeah.
I will have to say, I was just on a trip where I was in Chicago and in LA, and it was very hot. And I had more pilsners than lagers because I
Sure.
was so hot.
It's lager, pilsners, and hard seltzer season.
Yeah, exactly. Said like a true beer leader. You know what to put out front, right?
Yeah, I'm the one who makes like the end caps, the display.
Yeah.
Right now, I had like a Sun Lager Citrus Summer.
Uh-huh.
One side, there's another hard seltzer called like Shell House. I didn't
Yep.
know about that because I only knew about like White Claws before that. And yeah, but you'll be surprised. I know I have to try Peroni.
Uh-huh.
Peroni and Stella are the two best selling in that
Wow,
store.
Peroni still keeping it up. All right. I
Yeah,
like it.
those two. And I think that for IPAs, I order a lot of Lagunitas
Uh-huh.
and Dogfish Head, 60
Yeah.
minutes. I think those two are the best
Yeah, but
selling right
60
now.
minutes is a good beer, but it's not necessarily one I want in the summer. So I get it. Peroni, I remember when I lived in
Oh,
England.
and obviously, Boatswain. It
Oh,
sells a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both American IPA, double IPA, and the hazy IPA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
thanks a lot for all of that, and first for answering to a stranger through Twitter, and then for spending almost 40 minutes here talking about things that I don't know which one, who else could talk with that like precision, like you, like I mean, like in the public opinion, I mean.
yeah. Well, it was a pleasure having me on. And then let me know when you write a piece. DM me, send me a piece, and I'll read it and I'll share it with people. So good
I
luck.
will.
We have to help people up. Like You remind me of me, at my job, reading printouts of Fangraphs pieces.
And good
So
luck
good luck.
in your fantasy league because we are in the same ARF league.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm in the DC, in the DARF, the new.
All right.
I think it's the newest.
I'm in second, I think, or third. It's gonna be hard. I need O'Neal Cruz. Come on, O'Neal Cruz. I need him to go crazy.
All right, thanks a lot, and thank you so much for watching the interview. I'll do my best to keep you like with such great. Uh, I forgot how to say it in English. Like
Yes.
invitations, like
Yes.
personalities. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. That's the goal, like to keep the standards, and also you should consider subscribe and like the video. So I'm gonna see you another time. Bye bye.